Hey everyone, today is the start of a new season and a new year of Siege. I'm here to tell you everything new that is coming this season in Operation Demon Veil. Before that though, I want to say a big thanks to Ubisoft for sponsoring this video. We have so much to cover, such as the new Team Deathmatch / warm-up mode, the new Defender Azami with her throwable canisters, and the new map Emerald Plains. One thing I'll mention now before we get into the rest of the changes is that the Year Pass is back with the new season. It's available until March 21st and gives you 2 weeks of early access to each new operator per season, as well as each battle pass for the year. The Year Pass is only $30 US, which is great savings when the battle passes are normally $40 for the entire year. Use the link in the description to buy the pass now before it's gone. The first topic we're going to cover is what everyone wants to know about, the new defender Azami. Which, fun fact by the way, this is the first time we've had 2 defenders come out in a row since Operation Parabellum, which was almost 4 years ago. But anyways, Azami, she is a 2-speed, 2-armor operator. Her special gadget is a throwable knife / canister thing called a Kiba. When the knife lands, it expands into a bulletproof circle. She starts the round with 1 Kiba and regenerates over time, getting a total of 5, which the regeneration time is 30 seconds. And even though it is 30 seconds, her second Kiba comes in at 27 seconds. Not sure if this is a bug or the result of the timer starting before we actually load into the match. Either way, it's not impactful, but just thought it was worth noting. The canister will create a flat circle relative to the structure it's connecting to. Objects that are in the way can prevent the circle from fully forming, including players, so when deploying the Kiba, make sure to steer clear. Otherwise, you might waste one of the gadgets. There also seems to be some inconsistency of when the gadget can make a full circle and when it can't. For example, throwing it on this lamp in Villa made nothing, but throwing it on this tiny surface worked. I assume there's either a system in place to prevent people from abusing it, or maybe it's just the geometry of what it's sticking to. Maybe on that lamp there's some small bumps that are preventing it from fully forming and we just can't see that. But it'll definitely take some time before we can realize exactly where these gadgets can go and where to fully optimize their use. What we do know though is that while the gadget seems incredibly strong and adaptable, it's also easily breakable. It only takes 3 melees to destroy it or an explosive. And from what we were able to test, it appears if they are all connected, one explosion on one end will take out all the Kibas connected. Meaning you generally don't want them to stack on top of each other, or at least give them just a little bit of breathing room. They can also break from someone standing on them, meaning you can't use them to parkour or to block hatches. We can all blame Coconut and his insane spawn peaks that were so nutty that Ubisoft had no choice but to remove this. And obviously no, it's not actually his fault. Now for her loadout, she has some interesting choices. For her primary, she can either take the 9x19 SVN, which you might know from Kapkan or Tachanka, or it has the option of the ACS-12, aka the best shotgun in the entire game, which is from Alibi and Maestro. I do enjoy the fact that they added that specific shotgun since, like I said earlier, this is the first season we've had back-to-back defenders since Alibi and Maestro. I don't know if this is a direct nod to that, but I thought it was pretty cool. Now obviously from these 2 choices, the 9x19 is the standard better choice. However, the ACS-12 will always be more fun in my opinion. Plus, since you can make these tiny little angles with her gadget, you can use the shotgun to deal significant damage while the enemy can't really see you. The 9x19 will probably still do more damage, but you can use the ACS-12 in this way. Now for secondary, she only has one, which is the Deagle, which I don't think anyone's complaining about. For secondary gadgets, she has impacts and barbed wire. I imagine both of these are going to be pretty viable for her. The reason being is that the attackers might ignore an angle because there's a barrier in the way, so if you impact it and sprint right through, you can easily catch them off guard. And the barbed wire will also be useful because you can put that outside of a barrier, and when they push up to punch the barrier, you can then use that to your advantage. They'll be stuck in barbed wire while punching. There's just so many options for how to use her. So honestly, at the end of the day, anything in her kit's viable. And overall, I'm pretty excited for Azami, as it's been a full year since we've had a meta-changing operator, last one being Flores. A lot of people have been claiming she's as meta-changing as Mira, which I personally would disagree with, but I still think she's up there. Whether she becomes a top tier pick or not will still be determined, but at the very least we can say that she is a ton of fun to play. The next big point for the update is Team Deathmatch is finally coming out. Another fun fact, Team Deathmatch has been in the works for years. The community has known about it since like year 2 and has eagerly been awaiting for some type of warm-up mode. And now we're getting it. Here's how it works. 2 teams of 5 will compete in one of 3 maps, which are currently Favela, Theme Park, and Villa. The Team Deathmatch mode only lasts for 5 minutes or until 75 kills are reached. Any operator can be chosen, attack or defense, and there are no limits. I highly recommend going 10-player Ella Shoddy. It is just true bliss. Operators won't have their special gadget at all except for Glaz. And the only operators that are banned are shield ops, so Blitz, Monty, and Clash. Fuse you can still bring, but you just can't choose his shield. And everyone has the same secondary gadgets. They can bring a single frag grenade, stun grenade, or impact grenade. You can't reinforce, barricade, drone, or repel. And you can only change operators when you die. And when you do die, you respawn in a few seconds. You can also leave at whatever point you want and join TDMs in progress. And the last thing, there is no text or voice chat at all since it's not needed. It's TDM, run around and get kills. It's overall going to be a great addition to the game and be amazing for warming up. It'll also be a great way to practice your aim on real targets instead of having to try it in ranked. Oh, and one other thing I forgot to mention earlier. There's no friendly fire. Don't have to worry about accidentally team killing. Now we're going to talk about something I mentioned at the beginning of the video. We are getting a new map. The new map's called Emerald Plains, and it's coming this season. But it's not releasing at launch. Instead, we're going to get it in the mid-season reinforcements. I'm kind of 50-50 on this decision, as I would have loved to have this season launch with the first new map in almost 3 years and generate even more hype. But having it at mid-season will also keep the season interesting for longer, instead of losing hype halfway through like they normally do. I wish I could tell you guys more, but we unfortunately don't know much about the map other than the small clips that UB's released about it. Overall, it looks really interesting and I can't wait to play it. Now we're going to talk about something that I believe is going to completely change how the game is played. Attacker repick is coming out. What this means is that attackers are going to be able to change their operator during the drone phase. Let's say no one chose a hard breacher, don't worry, you can change to a thermite. Or let's say you brought the wrong gun, don't worry, you can change that too. You can change to any operator, change any weapons as many times as you'd like, and you have until the last 3 seconds of the drone phase to do that. I am a little worried that this is going to skew the win rate of attackers to be significantly higher than defenders. The benefit of this change, though, is that attacking will be way more flexible now. Instead of having to run the exact same comp just in case they go to one site you're not expecting, you can then just choose whatever you want. They went basement, all you have to bring is a Hibana. They went top floor, swap that Hibana to a thermite, and the rest of the operators can do whatever they want. What will suck for the defenders, though, is that let's say you know that they're going to go Ying, so you bring out a Warden. Now they're going to swap from Ying to someone else completely different, and Warden will basically be irrelevant. So it's going to be really tough for defenders, and they're going to have to play kind of like how attackers are playing, just expecting everything at all times. That being said, defense has always had the higher win rate since the beginning of time. I think it's time that attack gets a little bit of an advantage. And I know a lot of you guys are worried about this change, but I think we should at least let it play out for this season before we decide whether it's good or bad for the meta. If we see a huge shift, like let's say attacking is winning 75% of the time, of course, remove it. But honestly, it's probably going to make it more 50-50, whereas right now it's 45 for attacker, 55 for defenders. Now with that said, we also have some pretty big balancing changes coming. This I'm sure will affect the meta even more. The big one, a lot of you guys are not excited for this, but the big one, cameras that are thrown outside will now deactivate automatically after 10 seconds. This applies to Valk cameras, Maestro Evil Eyes, Bulletproof cameras, Yokai drones, and Mozzie drones. We discussed this at length before, so I won't get too far into it, but I'm overall in favor of this change. The biggest argument against this that I've seen from other people is them just saying, just look for the cameras, which we all know is a horrible argument to make. The map is massive outside with so many nooks and crannies for cameras to hide in that they are almost invisible, but they can still see everything. Forcing attackers to bring in IQ just to counter outdoor Valk cameras makes the game feel stale, as attackers have little choice in choosing operators because they have to choose an IQ. I will say, I do think letting Mozzie and Yokai drones go outside for 10 seconds is pretty weird because then they can get a lot of intel. But they did make that change to maintain consistency for all camera gadgets, so it makes sense. It's just going to suck being on attack and having a drone go outside for 8 seconds to mark you, quickly run back, and then continue to do that over and over again. Now, an additional change being made to cameras is that Valk and Zero are going to be able to access their cameras before they're actually deployed. What this means is that if you shoot an Argus camera as Zero or throw a camera as Valkyrie, you can hop right on cameras and it'll just kind of show you a blank screen. Once the camera lands, you can immediately see its feed. This will be helpful for Valk runouts so that you can be ready to see as soon as it deploys, because previously you had to be on a different camera, wait for it to land, and then hop onto the camera you want to see. Now you can just wait for it and get immediate intel. This is also really good for Zero because one of the biggest issues was shooting the camera, trying to hop on it to destroy a gadget, and then having to wait for it to deploy, and by the time you get on it, it's already destroyed. Now you can just wait and immediately zap as soon as you can see anything. Now moving on to non-camera related changes, Melusi is getting a bit of a nerf. Her Banshees are now going to open even quicker than before. Before they took 2 whole seconds, and now they're only going to take 0.75 seconds. I think this is an overall good change for attackers because they no longer have to waste so much time or utility to clear them. You can walk in, immediately shoot it, and then keep pushing. Having to sit in its range for 2 seconds waiting was a little much. Next change is a small one to Callie. She no longer has a speed penalty when carrying her sniper rifle, which, in case you didn't know, she was never actually as fast as other 2-speed operators unless she pulled out her secondary. Now she's going to be normal speed, and I think it's overall a good quality of life change. Last balancing change, which personally I'm a big fan of, but I've seen other people be kind of upset about it. Thunderbird stations are no longer going to auto-heal defenders who are already at max health. It doesn't mean that you can't be overhealed. You still can. You just have to at least take some damage. I do think this is an overall good change because then you don't have to worry about all the Kona stations being down when you return to site, but it also kind of takes away from the coordination a team needs. Normally a team needs to keep an eye on these sort of things or just suffer the consequences. Now you don't have to worry about that, you can get that person right back up to 100 health. But again, it kind of takes away from the coordination. You don't have to worry anymore. This also kind of removes the strat of overhealing when you're already at full health and then just swinging on the attackers. This is still possible, but it'd be pretty hard to do unless you somehow got to 99 health. Next, we're going to talk about a huge quality of life change, but could also be considered a balancing change. Scopes are becoming universal. Doesn't mean that everyone's getting every single scope, it just means that everyone will have the same options. When it comes to one-time scopes, everyone has every single one-time scope. Every single type of red dot, every single type of reflex, every single type of holographic. The only scope that's not available is Tachanka's LMG scope, which I can't remember what it's called. So he's still the only one that has that. But now you don't have to choose operators and go crappy sites like the Cybertruck Hollow. You can choose whatever you prefer. And the reason why this is a balancing change is because it also applies to the 2.5 times scopes, which mainly only affects Fuse because previously for his AK he could only bring the Russian 2.5. Now he can have the normal one. What this means is that essentially all the Russian scopes are now going to be gone because they were really tough to use. Personally, I'm a huge fan of Glaz with this red dot sight. Very minimal and just the perfect sight you need. Next is a balancing change but also a player affecting change. Goyo has officially been reworked. This was announced during the Year 6 panel and was delayed until Year 7. What's happening is Goyo is losing his deployable shields and is now going to place the gas canister itself. The big nerf is obviously that he's losing the shield, but he's getting a lot of buffs to make up for it. The first is that instead of having 2 shields, he now has 4 canisters. And when the canisters explode, they now spread fire for 20 seconds instead of 10 seconds, which honestly in the match feels like forever. And on top of that, the fire has a larger radius. On the surface, this looks crazy. It is a lot of buffs, but you have to remember that the canisters are going to be much easier to destroy now for attackers. You don't have to use an explosive to destroy a shield. You can just shoot the canister because it's going to be on a wall or on the floor and probably be a pretty easy place to shoot. So ultimately, this is going to become a high risk, high reward type of thing for defenders. If you can manage to make Goyo work, he'll be amazing. But if you don't, you kind of just wasted an operator pick. Ultimately, it's just going to take a while for us to really learn how to use him, but I'm excited at the prospect. Now moving away from balancing changes, we have a new player-facing change coming to Ranked. You're now going to have to connect a phone number in order to play Ranked. The goal for this is to slow down cheaters from re-entering the game and to help stop smurfing. And I don't have 100% confirmation on this, but the last I heard, Ubisoft was working with a third-party company to ensure that cheaters can't just generate a random number and bypass this requirement. It's going to require a real phone number. Here's hoping it keeps Ranked a little bit safer. And now we have a huge update for console players. Match Replay is coming to you guys. It's just a tiny bit more limited than PC because of storage constraints, but what it means is you can save up to 2 hours of gameplay or 12 matches, whichever comes first, which in most cases should be 2 hours, unless you're only playing casuals. We don't have direct confirmation yet whether console replays will work on PC, but if they do, you can expect some very special episodes of Guess Your Rank from our console player base. This next point is something that I like to consider a stepping stone in the right direction. Ubisoft is now adding incentives to keep playing on the test server. Right now, the incentive program is based on finding bugs. If you find a cosmetic bug, it'll get you 3 alpha packs, which contain 1 rare, 1 epic, and 1 legendary. Bugs that are still playable but not cosmetic will get you 6, doubling the amounts of each. Bugs that make it hardly playable will get you 9, and then critical bugs will get you 12 packs. So very rewarding for those bug finders. And the reason why I say this is a step in the right direction is that I sincerely do hope that they add incentives just for playing, not even testing, just playing. Because as it stands, most people leave after 1 or 2 days on the test server, which can really suck as a content creator when trying to get the new operator content and there's just no one playing. Hopefully this leads to that. Now, the remaining changes we're going to talk about are really small ones. They're still important, but just not really game-changing or really deserve having their own category. First, the melee animation is being changed to a stab instead of a slash. It feels weird and almost wrong at first, but once you get used to it, it just makes a lot more sense. Before with the slash, even though it looked like you were meleeing over a large area, it would really only hit one specific point. But now with the stab, you can get a better idea of exactly what you're hitting. Next, LEDs on gadgets will now be color-coded based on the team they're from. If the enemy team is set to red for you, the LEDs on all their gadgets will be red. If it's a friendly gadget, it'll be whatever color you chose for your team, like blue. Third change, some operators are getting model reworks to improve their overall quality. It has absolutely no change in the game, but I guess it just looks better for those who want it. Fourth change, the timer in the last 10 seconds is now going to show milliseconds too, to be a little bit more accurate. Fifth change, the HUD in support mode has been changed to show more relevant information. This is something I'm personally very excited for because it sucked not being able to see what gadgets people had. And the last change we're going to talk about, they have made some adjustments to prevent griefing. Before, people would drop a gadget to hurt their teammates like a grenade or smoke canister, and then they would leave. That way they wouldn't face any consequences. Now, if a gadget goes off after a player has left, it will do 0 damage, preventing people from team killing as well as preventing people from accidentally doing damage if that were the case. Now, I want to take a moment to thank Ubisoft again for sponsoring this video. Do not forget, with this new season, you have so much stuff coming. Team Deathmatch, the new operator Azami, the new map coming out the mid-season, and also the new year pass that's available until March 28th. When buying this year pass, you get 14 days early access to each of the operators in year 7, and you get all the battle passes included, which normally is $40 and instead will be $30. To buy the pass now, use the first link in the description. That's going to wrap up our video. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you're just as excited as I am for this year, as I think it could be a pretty big deal for Siege. And from what I hear, all the operators this year are supposed to be as impactful as Azami, so I'm very much looking forward to that. Thank you again for watching, and good luck on your placements. Take care.